Hey Enlight family, we're back with another extended interview. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We make videos for people who want to think deeply about life's biggest questions. And today, the question on the table is, are faith and science in conflict with each other? To tackle this really big question, we brought in Dr. Buddy Payne. Dr. Payne's credentials are impressive. He has a master's degree from Harvard in science education, as well as a PhD in mathematics education. But beyond his resume, I loved this interview because Buddy opened up about his own doubts and challenges to his faith over the years. I won't spoil it for you, but suffice it to say, it was a really great conversation. Andy Dieselkamp did the interview. He did a great job, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you for your willingness to spend some time with us and discussing some very important things. But to start off with, share with us about your own life, growing up, and how your faith developed, what background you came from.
Well, I was blessed to be born into a family of strong believers. My dad and his family, his mom and dad were first-generation Christians, affected by Texas preachers back in those days. And Dad became a Christian in his teens and decided a little bit later in life, he didn't go to college until he was in his 20s, and his desire was to preach the gospel.
Very good. So
he ended up, believe it or not, getting a master's degree in New Testament Greek from the University of Texas in Austin. That wouldn't happen anymore, I don't think, but it did then. They studied the Greek as it was in the New Testament days. So he had his master's in that along with history, and so he was able to be a teacher.
So that's the environment in which you
grew up in. And my mother was a teacher.
Okay.
I think in my heart of hearts, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
Her parents were both teachers. So we have a teacher's background.
Yeah, and so like you said, your heart is in teaching.
Exactly.
And how long have you been teaching then?
Well, I started officially teaching in 1968.
Wow.
And started in high school teaching chemistry.
Okay.
And then was asked to come to Florida College in 72. And so I was at Florida College for 50 years.
Wow.
And then actually 53 after I resigned as president.
How many of those years were you actually in a classroom teaching?
Yeah, I taught from 72 until I became president in 2009.
Okay.
A lot of that was part-time because I became an administrator.
Right. So being raised in that kind of environment, a believing, faith-filled environment, how did you handle things as you matured, as you went into what they call the teen years and your 20s, going to college? How did you deal with questions about doubts about your faith or anything like that?
No question. I want to back up just a little bit if I could,
Sure.
Because Mom and Dad made the decision. Dad taught at Abilene Christian for 3 years. And after the war, there was a big movement among our brethren to help evangelize both Europe and Japan.
Yes.
And Mom and Dad made the decision to take 3 little children and move to Holland.
Holland.
The Netherlands.
Yes, right.
So I was 4 years old when we moved, and we stayed there 5 years.
Wow.
And in those days, you didn't come back.
Yeah. So you were a full 5 years in the Netherlands.
5 years in the Netherlands, went to Dutch schools. We spoke fluent Dutch and grew up in a Dutch culture. Strong impact on children, I believe, to be in such an environment.
It is.
Because you learn that the United States isn't the only place, even though you don't know what you're doing in those days.
Yeah.
I think you become more of a world citizen, and your mindset is different.
That's a good perspective for Christians to have.
I think so.
Why would that be? Why would that?
I think it's because you learn another language. You're interacting as children with other cultures that you're not going to be having in the United States.
Right.
And I think it broadens your vision, even though you didn't intend it.
Yeah, it helps you to see that the gospel and the kingdom is bigger than your own country.
Exactly,
it's bigger than
right.
the United States, for example.
Exactly. And we traveled some other countries while we were there. We were privileged to take a trip to Germany, for example. There was a conference, and Dad took the whole family.
Right. So then you moved back after those 5 years in the Netherlands to Florida?
Florida.
Okay.
And Dad taught at Florida College for 24 years.
I see.
And, of course, preached full-time as well, like everybody does
Right.
in that setting.
Right.
So I saw a man who was completely devoted to what he believed
That's
and
powerful.
practiced it,
Yeah.
both in preaching and in teaching.
So, but that can kind of be somewhat of an intimidating situation for a young person as well, growing up as a preacher's kid or something like that. That some do not respond well to that. Obviously, your faith has come out on the strong side, but did you go through periods of doubt?
No question. I guess from the beginning of my schooling, I liked the sciences and the math.
Okay.
That was my bent. And I really did love the subjects. And had some very powerful teaching influences in public schools, because that's what we did then.
Sure.
Both at elementary and middle school, I was really blessed to have some key people who were influential. And in high school, a couple of the professors in science, and especially a math teacher I had in high school, were just dominant people and very influential. And the math teacher in particular wasn't a believer.
Okay.
And so there were some influences in terms of what I was being taught, because it was an exciting time in the math and the science area.
So we're talking
in the 50s and 60s.
50s and 60s, yeah.
You think about all the things that were being discovered then, and the opening up of a whole new world, especially at the microscopic level. So DNA structure in 1953, Crick and Watson. The mapping of the human genome came along after that, but there was a whole lot of progress being made in those areas, understanding how life functions at the chemical level.
And that all interested you.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And as we were uncovering those secrets, we were learning more about how things worked. And for those whose mindset was naturalistic, they didn't have a worldview that involved God. For them, it was exciting because in their view, we're understanding how things are working using the sciences.
Right.
And in many respects, people began to think there's less and less need for some kind of a God. Because we're figuring it all out.
Yeah.
And we're going to know within a relatively short time how life came about.
And
naturally.
So, right. So your teachers are coming from that angle.
Some of them were.
And that was, would you say, somewhat influential?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And your peers are being affected by that.
Sure.
And some of my best friends in high school were strong science and math people. In fact, we were the leaders in the school in terms of that dimension. And some of us got involved a little bit politically. You know, I ran for student government president, didn't win it, but we were all in honor society. And so it was that kind of leadership role in academics that also affects you. And a number of those kids were not strong believers. Most of them had some kind of religious background, as was the case in those days.
Sure.
But they weren't strong believers.
Right.
And the notion that it may be that this God thing isn't a real thing was not foreign to them. And we had some discussions about things like that.
Amongst your peers?
Certainly. And didn't know how to answer some of the questions that were being asked.
Yeah.
And so it was a challenging time.
For you personally?
For me personally.
Yeah.
And I was in the situation in those days that the administrators of the school, since we were kind of student leaders,
Right.
were pushing us to go to a big name school. So the notion, when they found out I was planning to go to a little 2-year school down the road in Tampa,
Yeah.
they were very much against that.
Oh.
and were openly saying, we will help you get into a prestigious school. That's where you need to be.
Okay.
And it was a pressure point for me.
So from the academic side, you were being pressured
Absolutely.
to go in the path that they wanted you to go. And,
Right.
And was that tempting to you?
Well, of course, because if you're going to go into the science field, you want to make a difference.
Sure.
You want to be in a place where you can have the greatest influence.
Yeah.
And having some impact in the world in your discipline.
Yeah.
And I see no problem with that from the standpoint of a Christian's worldview either, as long as you're not compromising your fundamental values.
Was there any temptation to do that?
Well, of course.
For you?
Well, the reason is, as a youngster, as I'm learning all this new stuff and
Yes.
not knowing how to deal with all of it,
Mm-hmm.
it sure looked to me like the more science uncovers, the less we need God.
That resonated with you a little bit.
Well, it did,
Yeah.
because, frankly, there were places in science all during the last century before we came along where people were seeing that this is something before we said God did it, now we know nature did it. And positions were taken about things that weren't defensible.
You got an example of that?
Well, the geologic formations, for example, we know that a lot of that happens naturally, and you can attribute it to a God-ordained thing, or you can attribute it to some natural causes. And there's variations about that.
Yeah.
That's one.
Sure.
Of course, Darwin's theory about how species came about. I think we all know that there was a time in which the position taken by the church, if we can use that in a generic sense, was that God created all the species where they are and what they're doing and in the way they are, and they were inviolate. Species.
Inviolate meaning?
They could not be broken. Species is a thing God did.
Ah, see.
And you don't go from one species to another. The species themselves were God made. That was a common position taken by religious folks.
Sure.
And of course, Darwin's whole theory was no, it's possible to produce new species without God. Natural selection, acting on natural variation, will do that.
Yeah.
And the fact is, I mean, as it was uncovering in those days, because Darwin knew nothing about how the genetic code and all of that.
Right.
He knew nothing about that and how those things worked. But there was enough evidence that generations, things change naturally. There's no question about that.
Sure.
We all need to believe there's change.
So there is an evolution.
No doubt about it.
Right.
And so for me, I had not at all made a clear distinction between what I call the special theory of evolution, and that's not new with me, but and the general theory of evolution,
Okay.
which is special theory would say there's limited change over time, and what the boundaries of that are not precise. The general theory says all living things come from a common ancestry by natural causes over millions and millions of years.
Right.
Well, those are two different things.
Yes.
That distinction was not being made in those days.
Is it now?
Well, it is among some. It depends
Right.
on who you talk to.
Exactly.
And some would absolutely deny there is a distinction
Right.
between special and general.
That the special proves, we extrapolate or whatever, proves the general.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But that distinction wasn't clear to me.
Right. And so that would
And
be
so
challenging
it's
to you.
challenging that if we can, for example, if you can have something that generates a subset of a species that no longer interbreed, that by definition is a new species. I think that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say today, if somebody asked me, I would say species is a man-made construct.
Right.
And if you're a Bible believer, the word species is not in the Bible,
Right.
and it wasn't a God-generated term.
Right.
In the Bible, if you look at the Genesis account, the word kind is what's used. And what is a kind? Well,
Right.
if you study that some, that's a little difficult to exactly define
Sure.
scientifically as to what that is.
Right.
So I have come to the position that kinds could cross species in certain instances, because
Right.
species is man-made anyway.
Right.
And by the way, it's pretty hard to define species
Yeah.
in many instances.
Right.
So where that line is precisely between special and general evolution,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly,
Yeah.
but I'm convinced there's a line
Yeah.
beyond which you cannot go.
A boundary.
And that science more and more is showing that there's absolutely a boundary.
Yeah.
That was not clear to me in those days.
Sure.
So yes, those kinds of things influence a young person into thinking, well, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, and maybe even my understanding of the Bible is not correct.
Yeah.
And so how do these harmonize?
Would you say that's a good exercise, though, for a young person to go
But
through?
it's scary when you don't know where you're going.
Did it scare your parents as you got into the sciences and math?
Some. Because
What advice would you give then to parents whose children show a proclivity towards the sciences? Or whatever?
well, I would say very strongly right now, because I'm in a better position to make such a statement,
Okay.
I would say to them, you should not cause your children to be afraid of the sciences,
Explain that.
because the sciences have uncovered all kinds of amazing things. And the more we learn, I would say to them, I have now been in the sciences for 60 years, and I'm a stronger believer than ever that God created. And if your children keep their minds straight and listen to the right voices,
Okay.
they can not only be a stronger Christian in studying the sciences, but can become a contributor to understanding
For other people.
for other people. And we need it.
Yeah. In the education
That's
system.
exactly right. But it's very important to hear voices that speak it correctly, because there's a lot of prejudice on both sides.
Well,
that issue.
let's segue from that then to your experiences in higher education. So, those voices in higher education. I mean, I can see you get really excited in the conversations we've had outside of this, and I've heard you speak as well. When you get it talking about science, you get really passionate, and I won't say just as passionate as you do about Jesus Christ, but it's the connection that you make between God and science that I think brings that passion out. But let's go back up just a little bit to your higher education, your experiences there. You want to describe that for us a little bit?
So back to high school days, I was pressured a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, my principal said, I will get you into Harvard.
Oh,
And I said, I'm going to Florida College.
a little two-year college.
He did not have any sympathy with that
Yeah.
and thought it was ridiculous,
Yeah. Waste.
a waste of my time.
Okay.
It was the best thing I'd ever done.
To go to Florida College for those 2
Absolutely.
years out of high school.
Because I heard voices there
Yeah.
of intelligent men and women who had studied the sciences and were up to date with things that were going on in the science world,
Okay.
who were strong believers in God,
So that helped solidify your faith and show that there could be a harmony.
with an undergirding, yes, of reasoned effort to show why this thing can work and you can harmonize the two sufficiently to give me a foundation to stand on.
So then what did you do after Florida College?
So I went to Florida State University for my last 2 years. The reason I did is because I'd met my wife at Florida College, and she was a year ahead of me. She went to Florida State because it was the best school in Florida for home economics,
Okay.
and she was studying child nutrition and nutrition as her fields of study.
Wonderful.
So she picked that school because it was by far the best in the state. And we dated from a distance for a year while I finished up at Florida College.
What years would this have been?
That was 64, 65
Okay.
when we were dating from a distance. And when I finished, then we got married the following summer. And I joined her at Florida State. That's why I went to Florida State.
Okay.
Although it had a good chemistry department as well.
So chemistry was your thing.
Chemistry was my thing. Actually, I had changed to mathematics, and then I decided I really was interested more in how mathematics is applied to the sciences.
I see.
So I took the science route as an application of the mathematics route.
Okay.
So at Florida State, I studied chemistry education. Teaching was my thrust.
You wanted to teach.
Always.
Came from that background. You wanted to
Always.
keep teaching. You wanted to teach chemistry.
I did not have an interest in doing research work in a laboratory. That was not what I was interested in.
Okay.
What I wanted to do is learn it deeply enough to explain it to people.
To explain it to the ordinary, the young
Exactly.
person who's growing up, who
Right.
doesn't know all the technical terminology.
Correct.
That's a good
I
skill.
firmly believe that God had given me a gift of explaining things,
Okay.
and in a way that people could relate.
So how long were you at Florida State?
We were there 2 years. It took her an extra year to get finished because she took 2 majors. And so I caught up with her,
Okay.
and we graduated together in 1967.
All right.
It wasn't a settled thing, but interestingly enough, during my time at Florida State in the senior year, I received an application from Harvard University.
Oh, there's Harvard again.
I did not ask for it.
Okay.
It just came in the mail,
All right.
and I didn't know why. But the offer was, we're offering scholarships, and we're looking for science educators, and we'd like for you to apply. And if you apply and you win the scholarship and choose to come, it's a full ride.
Oh, wow. For a year at Harvard?
It's a full year to get a master's degree in science education, yes.
Wow.
It was a 3-semester course.
That's a great opportunity.
Phenomenal. Of course, I didn't think I'd stand a chance of getting it,
Yeah.
but why not? And I guess the real clincher for us was if you'd got it and you didn't choose to come, they'd give you $100 anyway.
That was big money
That
back
was
then.
2 months' rent. So, I mean, there was no use not to try.
Right.
So I went through the application process and sent it all in. And I figured that's the last I'll hear about that. Well, sure enough, I got word that I won.
Oh, nice.
So I later found out that it was a competition.
Okay.
And my professor at Florida State let me know that he had sent my name in on behalf of the Florida State University system.
Oh, quite an honor.
So my name was submitted from Florida State as the one student that Harvard was going to send an application to.
So you didn't know it, but you were kind of competing with all of the
Exactly.
Floridian
All the
schools.
universities in Florida
Yeah.
had sent one name. And they gave one to the state of Florida, one to every state in the union.
So before we move on from Florida, what were your professors like there?
At Florida State,
At Florida State, yeah.
they were evolutionists to the core.
Okay.
And so,
Naturalists, as you've
naturalists.
used the word before.
Yeah. And so their approach to the sciences and chemistry and biology in particular,
Yet they nominated you to be the representative.
They did.
That's interesting.
yeah. Well, I was a decent student. And I think, again, God gave me a gift to help communicate with people and to understand difficult concepts and be able to talk about it and explain them.
So you went to Harvard.
I went to Harvard on a full ride with a wife.
Yeah. So give us just a brief.
Well, it was amazing. And we could not turn that down
Yeah.
after we got the thing in position. There wasn't a way to turn that down. It was too much of an opportunity. So we moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and settled into a high-rise apartment near the Charles River. And my wife, bless her heart, not only gave me a stipend because they gave you more if you had a wife,
Okay.
but she got a job at the office of the president of Harvard University.
Wonderful.
And we walked to school together every day.
You live that close, you're just able to walk there.
Yeah.
Floridians, though, now up in the cold Northeast.
right.
That was
That was an adjustment,
Uh-huh.
but it was wonderful. We had no children, and it was a wonderful time for us. And I told her when we went, don't count on seeing me much because I'm going to spend every spare minute in the library. Because my goal was, among other things, I wanted to investigate in depth what I could learn about the general theory of evolution, because it was a very great concern to me, this whole worldview position, because, frankly, the people with whom I had interacted in the sciences, the generic worldview was materialistic.
I see.
Scientific materialism. And strongly so because it was such an exciting time.
You're right.
An
All the
exciting
advancements.
time. Everything was, it's like the world is unfolding before our eyes, and science is what's doing it.
Right.
So it's almost like science becomes your God.
So you were excited about the discoveries.
Absolutely.
And but we're still holding to a faith in God.
Exactly.
And how did that work for you at Harvard? How was interaction with your professors there?
Well, I mean, you can imagine they were all of a worldview that was completely different from mine in terms of believing that there's a God behind all of this. That was not their position.
Yeah.
Nor did they think it bore scientific credibility. So that's what I learned very deeply there, that the scientific community as a whole generically does not accept that someone's a good scientist if he really believes that stuff.
So that was indelibly written on you at that
Definitely.
time. You learned that.
Well, and I learned it to the degree that you are careful how you deal with those things in that setting.
All right.
If you want to progress and get your degree, you don't make a big stink. So what I tell students about that is, first of all, get you a foundation at a college where there are professors who have strong convictions about worldview. And if you want to go to a prestigious school, you do that at the graduate level when you've got a little sense and some stability. You don't walk into those places as a freshman in college.
Right.
You're not ready. And you don't know how to deal with this. And some high schoolers who are good in science and math are a little bit cocky and think they can confront a professor about worldview. You're going to lose in that circumstance.
Sure.
You don't stand a chance. So you're much better off to get stability first. And if you want to go to a prestigious school, do it at the graduate level. But even there, you better have your feet on the ground and be ready to face opposition.
Sure.
And you better be wise if you want to progress, because there are challenges.
So you would say that your experience at Harvard was very good for you.
Definitely. As I said, I spent every spare minute in Widener Library, where you are allowed access to the stacks if you're a student or a professor or somebody that's invited. So it's like you have the world at your fingertips.
As far as information, scientific information.
Exactly, and all kinds of information.
Yeah.
So it was just a pleasure to me to spend every spare minute digging into things I was especially interested in.
So you went there for a year, and you got your master's.
Master of Arts in Teaching, with chemistry as my emphasis, and mathematics, by the way. I took some of both.
Okay.
In addition to that, I was allowed to take extra classes as an audit. And I took extra courses in the history of mathematics, the history of chemistry, and the history of biology with world-renowned professors in each of those disciplines.
Wow.
And without the pressure of having to make an A in the class.
Right.
But I was taking them for my own personal development.
Right.
And what those men did is they required you to go back and read original materials in the history of these disciplines, which is the best thing you could have done, because you're going back and you're looking at what the works of the men who developed the sciences.
So give me some examples of what they were having you read.
Well, for example, in the history of chemistry, you're going to go back and read about the alchemists who were the early fakers, and then some of the early chemists like Robert Boyle in England, and, of course, Isaac Newton.
Right.
Even Galileo.
Yeah.
Now, they were astronomers.
Right.
And Kepler was an astronomer, but they all tied in to this worldview piece. And most of those men were strong believers, as you know, in the Lord and in the Bible as the Word of God. They had different views than some of the standard views in those days. But what you were doing is you were reading after men who were uncovering secrets of the universe and giving glory to God.
Yeah.
At the same time.
And that's a shift that changed over time, where
Yes, it did.
the science community was no longer giving glory to God like
Exactly.
the ancients did. But
Exactly right.
you had the opportunity to
And read and study those men as well. So when you move into the 19th century and the 20th century, you're moving away from the consensus being that there's a God behind all of this to, no, we don't need the God hypothesis.
We've progressed, I guess, to put it in the terms, modern terms, we've progressed beyond the need for a God.
Correct.
So how would you respond to that kind of approach to the sciences?
Well, for me, I had the same challenge.
Yeah.
That's what I was going through, which is why I was so passionate about digging in and finding out what is the real answer to this.
Yeah.
And I believe in evolution because I evolved in my senses about this.
Yeah.
And so I had to come to a place where I could find where this combination works and it's really the truth. And I'm not there yet, but I'm way farther along than I was then in terms of where the truth lies. So I would say to young people, you go into the sciences with your eyes open and you dig and you come to learn what we've learned. But you also need to learn what's not the case because science has changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
And what we thought 50 years ago has dramatically changed in terms of how we explain the way things work. And we found out there's a whole lot more evidence for design, for example, than we ever knew 50 years ago.
Right.
And the more you study, the more the design argument opens up.
The design argument for God, the design argument for there being a designer.
Exactly right. And for mind over matter.
Right.
Mind beyond matter, and mind as the place from which we got matter and the organization of matter.
So just for clarification purposes, you just got done saying something to the effect of that you came to believe in evolution. And so there's the idea of, then he's a theistic evolutionist. You believe in God and you believe in evolution. So clarify that for
and that needs clarification. For me, it's very specific what I mean by that. And for me, it's the distinction between limited change over time, which I believe is strongly supported by the evidence of the natural world. And that Darwin's theory about that is exactly right if you limit it to what it applies to.
Right.
To make Darwin's theory apply to the general theory that all living things come from one single tree of life is not supported well at all. And that distinction is not made by most folks, including the scientific world.
As we said earlier, they assume from the small amount of change that is observable that there was this large change.
That amount of change added up over time will account for all the variability you see in all life forms. That is not supported well at all. In fact, the scientific data and evidence that I'm aware of is strongly against it. So when I say I believe in evolution, I think it would be foolish to say we didn't believe in change over time. Significant change, but not sufficient to account for all life forms.
Right.
By a common thread over time. Not sufficient, not at all. There's a great break there.
Yeah.
Exactly where that break lies is still a challenge.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to define exactly. But I think science is getting closer. And we could get into some details about that. It's probably too much for this discussion, but that's where I am. I think there is a place for the things we've learned that account for things partly, but it's been extrapolated far beyond what it will give us.
So would you, if someone labeled you a theistic evolutionist, you probably would want to clarify that.
I would not want to take that terminology.
Yeah.
Because typically what that means and I don't guess it's universally true, theistic evolutionists generally accept the general theory of evolution, and they say that's the way God chose to do it. That all life forms did evolve over time.
Right.
All life forms from a common source.
Right.
And God chose to do it that way by making the first simple life form of some kind.
Right.
And then it evolved over time by natural causes.
Right. And
well,
you
there's
would
all
deny
kinds of
that.
problems with that. All kinds of problems with that,
So-
both scientifically and biblically.
Right.
So I don't accept that view at all.
So it's not just because of your reading of the Bible that you,
No,
the science community might say, blindly reject that.
correct.
You don't believe it's supported by science
Absolutely.
itself. So let's play with that a little bit. Give me some examples of why you don't think science even supports that.
Well, because I don't think the evidence supports that the natural variation is present in nature. That natural variation acted on by natural selection can account for all the diversity. It just cannot, either chemically, biologically, or physically. Those areas do not support that view if you expand it out to all life forms. There's too many problems there. And I was going to bring up a book called The Edge of Evolution,
Okay.
which speaks to the fact that evolution itself has limits based on the science that we've uncovered in the last 50 years, that there's an edge to it. You can apply Darwin's theory of evolution only so far. And the more we learn, the stronger that gets.
And does that argue then that this extrapolation that takes place
Is exactly that. An
Yeah.
extrapolation is not based on the solid evidence that we now have.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
And you referenced earlier that in the last 50 years, there's been a lot more discovered, more information that you think contributes to a belief that God is behind all of this. Let's go into some of that, at least briefly.
I think the evidence for design is stronger than it's ever been.
Okay.
Because everywhere you look, there are things that you observe that could not have come about by natural means, that of anything we know about. So, for example, inside the DNA, there's a massive amount of information contained, including a language that we've learned how to read, and we know what it does. And incorporated with that are a host of activities that involve machines that operate inside every living thing.
Now, when you use the word machine,
We call them molecular machines
molecular machine.
because they're at the nano level.
Okay.
They're at the level of molecules
Right.
that are doing jobs following normal physical laws, tasks that have to be performed in living things, and they're operating by natural means.
So when we
But they're
think,
doing things that when we look at it at our level, somebody built that.
okay, that's what you mean by a machine.
Yeah.
Okay, because when I think of a machine, I think of something that, Henry Ford built a car, or something like that. There was a human being involved in making it.
Yes.
And you're saying that at the nano level, the micro level, that there are machines which imply
They imply a designer.
a design.
Absolutely, they do. And the natural, if we saw something like that at our level, we would everybody would agree that was built
by
a designer of some kind.
an intelligence.
An intelligent designer. And by the way, languages come from intelligence also.
So
And
if
there
you-
is a language being used constantly in every living thing. Always. And we don't know of any source of language other than intelligence.
When was that? When did we discover that language that you're talking about?
That all was unfolding in the 60s and 70s and 80s, the genetic code, we call it. Because when DNA was discovered, the structure of DNA, we began to learn that it has within it a code that codes for the building of proteins.
Right.
And the more we learned about that, the more we understood this truly is a language that's being used to produce proteins at an amazing rate constantly inside every living thing.
So what would you think the naturalist says about that? If a code has been discovered, would they say that we're misusing the word code or language here?
I don't think so. I think they would think somehow nature produced that by itself. It's a strong faith.
It just randomly produced.
That's the only choice you have. If it wasn't designed by some intelligent source with a mind, then it had to be produced by nature itself.
So I guess they would say that's what happened.
That's what happened.
And you would say?
I would say the evidence for that is non-existent, that such a thing could happen that way.
I see. All right.
Exactly. That's one element.
We don't have any scientific evidence that would demonstrate.
Nature could produce something like that.
Okay.
It's correct.
Except they would fall back on, well, but it did, obviously.
Here we are. Yeah, and that is one argument that's made.
That's a faith in and of itself.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And what I have learned very strongly is that any position on origins is a position of faith. You're ultimately going to believe it based on the preponderance of the evidence that you've observed that means something to you.
So as we use the word science, there can't be a scientific explanation for origin.
I don't believe so, not ultimately.
Right.
Of course, they believe you could eventually, and sometimes they reach a point where they have to say, we don't know yet,
right?
But we're getting there.
Right. And that gets into the whole issue of we don't know yet, where the person who believes in God says, well, God can do that, and they're not satisfied with that answer.
Correct. In fact, they would say that's a cop-out. And science does not do that.
It keeps investigating, keeps exploring.
Exactly. And because that closes the door to investigation. Look, folks in those dimensions who believe so strongly in a naturalistic view, a worldview that says nature is all there is, the very idea of introducing something supernatural to them is anathema. It's like you have stepped out of reality. Reality is dealing with the world and nature as it is. You introduce something supernatural which cannot be observed by any means we have.
Right.
All science can do is deal with nature. So you're introducing something that science cannot deal with. So you've just stepped out of the sciences. I want nothing to do with you. I don't want you having any credibility. Because if I give you credibility, it undermines the credibility of my science department.
Because we aren't going to make that assumption or even entertain that possibility.
Correct, because they would say, as Lewontin did at Harvard, and very strongly so, we don't allow God's foot in the door. Because when you do, you have just cracked the door for something science cannot investigate.
Okay.
In fact, it's inappropriate.
It's inappropriate.
For the sciences, and when they believe, as they strongly do, that nature's all there is, science is the only approach you have to getting ultimate answers. They don't allow the other because that steps outside of science, they say, which it does. Listen, we need to get real about that. Science cannot investigate the supernatural, period, because it's beyond the realm of science. That does not exclude using science to point to intelligent design.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with to understand is that if we are just going to automatically discount as an option something that is outside of nature as the cause of nature, that doesn't sound very scientific to me. In other words, to just absolutely have a prejudice against that, even though we can't investigate it scientifically.
Correct. It is a prejudice. And it's a view that's so solid in many of the scientific community. They feel like you're absolutely undermining the science methodology by allowing such a thing and giving it credibility. That's how strong it is. Now, I'm not saying it's right.
Right.
I'm saying that's reality.
Right.
So if you say with the Cosmos series, Carl Sagan,
yeah.
that nature is all there is, all there ever was, or all there ever will be. That's how it starts. That's how the series began. That presumes, doesn't it,
Yeah.
that nature's all there is. Ever been or ever will be.
It's eternal.
It's eternal. That's all there ever will be. That means if you're going to introduce the notion there's something beyond nature that had anything to do with this, you've stepped out of science. No, what you've done is step out of their philosophy. Because that statement is not a scientific statement. You cannot prove that from science if your life depended on it. That's a philosophical statement of what Carl Sagan believes with all his heart.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make it science.
Right.
Science cannot investigate that there was never anything besides the material world, ever, and there never will be.
Right.
That's a philosophical statement that he's come to, and a lot of other folks have too, from, they say, the sciences, but it's a leap of faith.
Okay. And so we're all, in a sense, making some leap of faith.
Absolutely we are.
When we deal with origins.
Yes, we are.
And so,
And we better admit that.
would you say that those who are believers, I guess maybe, what would you say to those who are believers, who are leery, skeptical of the sciences because of this prejudice that is so prevalent, especially in modern times, and therefore they just they don't even want to listen to science at all, and so they wouldn't even entertain, as you did, the idea of some special kind of change or evolution that has taken place?
Well, I would try to be gentle with folks, because I certainly needed that during the course of my life. I want to be gentle, but I also want to be firm about it.
Okay.
I would say you need to think more deeply, because there are things about this that science has produced for us that is amazing, and that you accept. That just by reading the Bible, you might never know. There are things you can learn about the natural world that the Bible doesn't tell you.
So the Bible,
And I'm a Bible believer.
right? The Bible doesn't tell us everything that God has done.
No. It doesn't tell us that your body's made up of cells in which there are thousands of molecular machines doing all kinds of jobs.
Yeah. It doesn't tell me that.
But the more science has taught us, if you don't get yourself so prejudiced you don't see it, is that there's abundant evidence in the natural world that somebody designed this.
Yeah.
This was not done by natural causes of anything we know about. And the more we learn, the less likely it is that it was done by something other than a supernatural power.
Right. But again, if that's off the table, then
You've lost a lot.
Yeah. You're not going to be
That's
able.
how I would say it to somebody who's a believer who doesn't trust the sciences. I'd say, good for you. Don't trust them when they're saying things that aren't so,
Right.
or that take it beyond what science can tell them.
Right.
So you need to become discerning about that. And just understand there are some people who need some help in this area. And that's what I'm trying to do for them. As somebody who studied this subject for 60 years, I want to help somebody see there's good reason to be appreciative of what science has done, because it too points us to God if it's understood correctly.
Right.
And by the way, the Bible teaches that. There are numerous passages in the Bible that indicate nature itself testifies of the existence of a God.
Sure. Romans chapter 1 would make that.
Psalm 19.
Psalm 19. Yeah.
Psalm 8.
Yeah.
And numerous other ones that at least imply it.
Sure.
So-
Sure. That tell us that there is far more that God has done apart from his special revelation in Scripture.
Exactly.
And so the believer in Scripture needs to be open to that other revelation, if you will, the more general revelation that God has done through his creation.
Correct.
So the study of the sciences then actually is a study of what God has done.
I believe it. And more strongly than ever.
Yeah.
And that is what part of, you asked, I mean, this discussion started with how did it affect me personally?
Mm-hmm.
And my personal struggle was, how do you harmonize those? How do you make them harmonize? When I was being taught that the more we learn from the sciences, the less there's a need for God, because after all, we only put God in where we didn't understand.
Right.
And the more we understand about the natural world, the more we've discovered you don't need God for this, 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 and this. So do you need him for this? Do you need him for that? Do you need him at all?
Right.
And that's the danger.
Right.
And people do extrapolate beyond what science will tell you.
Yeah.
And that's the danger. And so that's the scary part.
I want to give you an opportunity to at least share a little bit of, maybe a little more deeply, more detailed, about some of the design things that you've become excited about that have been discovered. I mean, we've already mentioned DNA, and you can go with that a little bit more if you want, or if there are other things that you want to talk about, but give you that opportunity.
Well, being an emphasis in chemistry for me, I prefer to talk about that biochemical level
Sure.
more than anything else, because
Yeah.
I feel stronger about
Yeah,
that.
sure. Go ahead.
Well, I would say the evidence of the complexity of living things at the biochemical level has become so overwhelming in the last 50 years
Right.
that it's unimaginable to me that someone will not admit somebody had to design this ultimately. Somebody had to be behind it. There has to be a mind behind this to produce what we see.
Okay. So give me some examples of that. I mean, you mentioned the DNA and the code.
Right.
I think I've heard you talk about the proteins that are involved.
Yeah, the production of proteins. I mean, just study the production of proteins and how that works. Well, we know a whole lot more about that now than we did 50 years ago. But we know that there's a code that's produced that produces then a messenger RNA, which is then migrates out to the ribosome, and there it builds that protein. But the process, think about this, to build one protein by that method requires about 50 proteins to make it happen. The DNA just contains the information.
Okay.
The proteins do all the work.
Okay.
So you have to have the DNA and the messenger RNA and then about 50 proteins, actually it's more than that now, that are all involved with the process either of the transcription of the information or the movement, the migration of it, or the translation of it to make a protein. In that entire process, there's at least 50 different proteins involved. But every one of those proteins has to be built the same way. You follow me?
Yeah. Well, I
the
think
protein that allows you to unzip DNA, which is really a blob of proteins, also has to be built
Yeah.
by the same method. So how did you get it started in the first place?
Right.
Without somebody designing that process so that it functions together. It's a big old problem, how you explain that,
Yeah.
without mind designing it. It's kind of like producing a machine without a design that produce all the parts that go together to make it work.
Right. So
That's
this
what you have.
Right.
And it's really a big old problem. And the more we learn about it, the more complicated it gets.
So it's that complexity that you just mentioned that complicates the problem of origin.
Exactly right. The more we've learned, the less likely it is that those things originated without a designer.
They get more complex.
More complex. So let me just add another piece here. One of the steps in the process is that the messenger RNA that's formed from making that copy, I mean, forget the fact that we've already got to have a bunch of proteins just to make the copy. But once the copy is made, that's called messenger RNA. The messenger RNA has to be edited. Well, guess what does the editing? Another glob of proteins. They're called spliceosomes and editosomes. Well, a spliceosome by itself is a complex combination of proteins and RNAs. I mean, that thing is so complicated, it would take a week just to explain how it works. And the spliceosome takes the messenger RNA and splices it and reorganizes it. And what we've learned is that one section of the DNA, which we thought before produces a protein. No, that's not right. Because it appears that that thing is edited, and you can shift the places of it, and that same one section can build up to as many as 1,000 different proteins. I mean, I think that's the record setter, that one section of DNA produces at least 1,000 different proteins by re-editing. And the spliceosomes are what help do that work. That's another chunk of proteins and other things. Then you have to put it back together. Well, that's the editosomes and the spliceosomes. They work together. So that's just that piece. Then when you get down here to the migration that takes place, there's proteins involved in that. And when you get down here to the ribosome, and now you're going to use that information to build a protein, what you have to do is read it first, and then you call on the other information in the cytoplasm to come in and bring the appropriate equipment in there, because you got to have the materials.
Right.
And there's specific proteins for every one of those to bring those in, along with transfer RNA. And then you put it all together, and down inside, there's specific proteins that make that happen down inside the ribosomes.
And this is all happening at a nano...
In instance.
In time, instantaneously, basically, and at this nano micro level, and it's so complex.
There is no factory constructed by mankind that even touches topside or bottom of it. And yet we say, isn't it interesting how over millions of years that evolved by natural causes? It is an unbelievable fairy tale. That's what it is.
So your explanation...
We will not let God's door a foot in the door.
Which would be a simpler explanation.
Yes, it would. And look, I want to give scientists credit.
Okay.
If you say God did it, you stop the science. That's what they would say.
Right.
Just God did it.
Right. I don't need to understand everything you just explained to me.
And I don't want that at all.
Right.
Just because we say there had to be an intelligence behind this doesn't mean we don't want to find out how it works.
Right. We want to keep exploring.
We want it and give God the glory.
So just like we do at the nano level, we can do it in space the same way.
Exactly.
So you would be you're fine with shooting the telescopes, the radio telescopes,
Absolutely.
the optical telescopes.
And the more we learn, the more amazing that gets.
It does.
Doesn't matter where you are.
Which direction you go.
Macroscopic to the macroscopic. The evidence for design is everywhere.
Everywhere we look. So actually, Christians should be encouraging the sciences, not necessarily with their atheistic philosophy or agnostic philosophy.
Correct.
But encouraging the sciences to continue to explore.
Absolutely.
At the micro level
Right.
and outer space.
And be excited about it.
Study the human body, study the animals, study everything that God has created, because it just gets more complex and it just speaks more to the fact that
And I will tell you that what I'm excited about is there are lots of people now, men and women, in the sciences who are widely respected. If you're a Christian, you're going to go into the sciences, I want you to be the best scientist there is.
Right.
Don't you walk into a place unprepared.
Right.
And don't you be a part of something where you don't know as much as anybody in that room about the discipline you're interested in. You know it, and you still believe in God.
So you're
because
studying,
you've seen the evidence.
just like a believer would study Scripture with a desire to know more. We study God's natural revelation with a desire to know more, with the same passion.
Exactly right.
And that we can bring glory to God through that.
Amen.
And I think that should be helpful to believers to not be so skeptical of the sciences. I know why their skepticism is there is because where they go with it. But let's not just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Amen.
Because this is God's revelation as well.
It is. And I understand the scariness of it. Been there myself.
Right.
But I'm convinced that if you open your minds clearly enough and allow the crack in the door, because there is good reason to, and you don't just stick God in as an answer because you don't know what you're talking about. No, you look for the evidence. The stronger the evidence is, the stronger you believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is stronger than ever.
So I was going to ask you, there are a number of defenses, philosophical defenses arguments for the existence of God that are used, and some resonate with some more than others. And I think I've gotten from you that the design argument is probably your passion.
It is. To me, it's the strongest evidence from the natural world. There are philosophical argumentations that can be made, but for me, as a science person, the design argument is the strongest one in my mind. And of course, that's what's trying to be undermined by folks like Richard Dawkins, who wants to say to you, the blind watchmaker is the designer.
Right.
There is no purpose. And in his mind, everything in nature points to a nature that could care less about anything. Wrong. What you see is powerful evidence that somebody's mind was behind this.
Right.
The difference is Mr. Dawkins thinks you can take everything that's complex and break it down into very small things that are not complex, which could have happened by natural causes. And you can add those up over time and produce any complexity that you observe. You don't need God.
And I think by his own admission and other atheistic perspectives admissions, that results then, practically speaking, in an existence that has no meaning.
Of course.
Except what we pretend to have for ourselves.
You can make up your own.
You can make up your own meaning, but it's just made up. It is not, there's not a greater meaning or purpose. And where would you say the fruit of that goes to the average human being who's taught that? I mean, what's the result of being told that you're meaningless?
Well, in my mind, that gives you no more purpose for existence than a roach. Why would you have more purpose? A roach has been around longer than you have.
Right, and we tend to kill those.
You step on them.
Right, because, and so...
I mean, practically speaking, on what basis would you say that there was some purpose more meaningful for you other than to say, well, I can do more than a roach can do. I can, actually
I'm smarter
change
than a
things.
roach. I'm stronger than a roach.
Right, I have
so it's
value
survival
in that
of the
sense.
fittest.
Yeah.
Again, we're back to that. The smartest and the strongest are the ones who are going to survive. That's how we've come to this point from that philosophy. And so that is how we should proceed, you would think. Yet we have a world that doesn't think that the smartest and the strongest should crush the weakest like they would a roach. So what does the agnostic or atheist do with that?
Well, they've taken different approaches to that. People have their own views about those kinds of things. But reality says if nature's all there is, it didn't have you in mind.
No.
In fact, that's precisely what Mr. Dawkins and others would say. There was no purpose. There was no mind's eye. There was nothing being looked forward to. It just happened by natural causes that we have what we have. So to somehow develop purpose out of that requires some mental gymnastics. And by the way, how did your mind get here? and how did you get a purposeful thought process? How did you get some moral sense? All of those things are difficult to explain from a naturalist perspective.
Especially, if you're going to say there's no God behind this, there's no meaning behind this, then why do I even pay attention to what someone like Richard Dawkins writes? Because that's meaningless too, isn't it? The very fact that he writes something that he believes is rational and meaningful seems to defeat the very argument.
It does to me.
It's very interesting. Let's push back from the other side then a little bit. How would you respond to the complaint that faith in God, the faith in God of the Scriptures, has stifled progress scientifically, but at its best, it's stifled scientific investigation, and at its worst, it's responsible for, they'll say the Crusades or, the wars that have been over religion, have been over people of faith who believe in a God, and they're fighting with each other. And that's been the source of the problem. Have you ever thought about that?
Well, yes, of course. I think anybody that's struggled with their own faith has had to think about some of these things. And I would say, first of all, on the religious side, if you want to bring up things that religion has perpetrated, there are plenty of negative examples.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is, it's not the religion that did it, it's the people who were manifesting it. And if you understand the religion of Christ properly, you wouldn't be doing a whole lot of the things that people have claimed or done in the name of Christ. So let's not go there, because there's been abuses everywhere.
Right.
And might I say, the same is true for those who have a worldview that there is no God and think they ought to live some kind of a moral life, as opposed to those who have abused it and done all kinds of horrendous things. If you want to talk about what the atheistic view can give to us, look at the 20th century. If you want to talk about abuses and horrendous things that have been done, you look at the 20th century. It's the 20th century is the century of atheism in terms of world governments. The governments of Hitler and the communist governments around the world have demonstrated what you get from a communist system that's ruled by materialistic science. That's what they claimed.
Yeah.
And just look at what's happened.
Right. And we generally don't look at that very positively as what they've produced.
Correct.
What?
So I would say, let's examine carefully what Christ really taught about his system of faith. And let's be careful to do that correctly. And then we'll come out with the kind of a world God ordained through Christ to be. But we also know the Bible teaches sin entered the world, and sin has impacted everything. And because of it, lots of things have been done, even in the name of Christ, that are absolutely horrendous.
Right.
So don't use that as an argument against faith.
Right.
Use it an argument against the abuse of faith,
Right.
just as there are abuses of everything.
Right. Yeah, so abuse is everywhere, and that includes those who name Christ as their Lord and Savior. There will be people who do things in the name of Christ that are wrong. And we should acknowledge that.
But I want you to think, too, at the same time, intelligent medical doctors operated on babies, doing horrendous things to them during Hitler's regime and in the communist world. And they use what they've learned about the natural world to do awful things in the name of their faith, which was the naturalistic world is all there is. And this is the way it's going to be.
And to some degree, we're still doing that. We do it more in a, we think, a humane way. But what is done with abortions and what is taken from the products of those abortions, experimented on and used, I believe we're going to probably look back in horror at, you're right, the 20th century has been, what we've done with our technology is scary.
It definitely is. So there's challenging things on all sides.
So a common example of the conflict between the claims of Scripture and those of science has to do with how, the age of the universe, the age of the earth. How have you navigated that debate? Obviously, for an evolutionary process to take place, without a God, without a designer behind it, time is of the essence, and there has to be lots of it. I think that's why they have to posit billions and billions, and I'm sure we'll get to trillions of years, and even to the point of eternity, for these things to come about. But how do you navigate the age of the universe issue?
That's a challenging question. And for me, I don't have the answer to that. I think there will always be times for anybody that's a believer in God. There will always be times, there will always be questions you don't know how to answer. There will never be a time when you've answered it all, or you'll be God himself.
Yeah.
The age question is a question I have not resolved in my own mind. So it's a little bit complex to get you where I am, because it involves a rather lengthy discussion of how I've gotten to where I am.
Sure.
But I will summarize it this way. When I look at the evidence of the natural world around, there are a lot of evidences that something's very old. There just is, in a host of ways. One of which is radioactive decay of substances that we discovered in the late 1800s that have long half-lives, it appears, and that some of them are still around and some of them aren't. So it kind of puts a time frame on things if you grant certain assumptions. So that's one method of finding age to things, but it takes a while to explain it. And I think this probably isn't the medium to try to do that. But so there are things like that that point to old ages.
But even in that, you would say there are certain assumptions.
Yes,
you have
there
to
are.
still grant some assumptions.
Correct.
Yeah, go ahead.
Decay rates. I mean, you can't have a clock if the rate isn't the same.
Right. It changes all the time.
Right.
It slows down.
The rate of decay has to be a constant, or you don't have a method. Now, a scientist would argue that the rate of decay of radioactive substances, we don't know of any reason why it should change or anything that would make it change. And I think that's correct at this point. I haven't done enough study on that to really get an in-depth answer, but it is the fact that it is an assumption that they've always remained the same. And if that's over billions and billions of years, that's quite an assumption.
Right.
That nothing has changed with regard to the rate.
Right. And again, if you allow for the introduction of a mind or an intelligence, a power
Right.
that is greater than those radioactive
Correct.
things, that there's another assumption that could be made that the science community is not going to make.
Correct.
An
And you
assumption
wouldn't
that
make
God
that argument
intervenes.
in a scientific world.
Right.
That's one of the problems here.
Right.
If you introduce God, and that's what they'd say, you just introduce something science cannot deal with. So let's not go there.
Right. Right.
And I would have to admit that from a scientific perspective, as far as I'm aware, there's no scientific evidence that the rate of change or the rate of decay for naturally radioactive substances has changed over time.
Right.
So, but that is an assumption.
Right.
And there's a couple of others that we could talk about. But there is some assumption underneath it. But granted the assumptions, things are very old, some of them.
Right.
And if the speed of light is a constant, and we have light coming to us from distant sources, and there are ways to determine distances, various methods, which again is a complicated subject, but there's some things way out there, and the light is here.
Right.
And if it's way out there and the light is here, it only travels at a certain speed. It's the maximum speed, so we're told.
Right.
Has the speed of light ever changed? Well, I don't know of any evidence that shows that it has.
Right.
So if it's a constant, it took that light a long time to get here.
Right.
If you just say this nature's all there is,
Right.
right?
Right.
So there's lots of things like that
Sure.
where things appear very, very old.
Right.
When I look at it from the other side, and I'm speaking now as a Bible believer, and I look at the counts of time in the Bible, it's a pretty challenging thing to learn from the Bible even how old the earth is and how old, when creation took place. Now, it's been done, you know that, and we've gone through the genealogies and the various things said in Genesis and come up with various dates. That's hard to determine an exact time.
Sure.
But the natural rendering of those passages, in my view, when you let the Bible interpret itself, does not allow for billions and billions and billions of years.
Right.
That would not be the natural understanding of those passages. So I don't believe that you can just say the long age determinations from the natural world fit with what the Bible says.
Right.
I don't think they do.
Right.
So how do you harmonize those two?
Yeah, that's
the
my question.
That's the question. And I don't have an answer for you.
Right.
That's an unknown to me at this point. I don't understand how to explain that.
So, yeah, you don't have a dogmatic answer that you believe I've figured it out.
But I'll tell you what I'm not going to do.
What's that?
As a Bible believer, I'm not going to try to massage Genesis 1 in such a way that it conforms with the modern day understanding of billions of years evolving over time to produce everything you see here.
Right, because the beginning of Genesis doesn't require you to take the naturalistic assumption.
Of course not.
In fact, it demands that you take another assumption that God is involved in this process.
Correct.
And so as Genesis unfolds, you have the creation of man mentioned in chapter 1 and more fully developed in chapter 2. There, obviously, the creation account, as you read it, seems to suggest that he creates the world already with some age in it. I mean, he doesn't create Adam first as an embryo.
Right.
He creates him as a full-grown
No
man.
question.
And so there is, the question is, did the trees in the garden have rings in them, or things like that? And of course, those are things we can't answer.
Exactly.
The Bible doesn't address that.
That's correct.
But if you're a believer in Scripture, then you have the assumption of God that you are working with that can help you navigate this somewhat. And you're saying that you do use Scripture to navigate this, but you're not going to be dogmatic about, therefore, this is how I figured it out.
Right, at this point.
Yeah.
But I would argue that the natural understanding of the passages in the Bible does not lend itself to that.
To the billions.
And I guess I'll tell you where I am on it.
Sure.
I think one of these days when we see God, he's going to say, "You dummy, here's the simple explanation of how that is."
And we're going to go.
Right. That's what I think.
Okay.
There's something we don't know yet.
And maybe science will help us find that, just like it's helped us with a number of other things.
Could be. But I don't think it's wise to try to mesh the present day understanding of time into Genesis 1
Okay.
and say, this is how that works. And here's how the general theory of evolution over millions and millions and billions of years fits with what Genesis says.
Yeah.
That's been done.
Yes.
And it's a paltry effort in my view.
On both the scientific side of things and the biblical
Correct.
side of things.
Correct. I think it's unwise. I would prefer to just say at this point, I don't know the answer to that question, which is why I don't talk about it much.
Okay.
I'd rather talk about the powerful evidence in the natural world that there is a God.
Yeah.
Because that's been absolutely excluded from the scientific community by many people. And there's powerful evidence for that. The age question, I'm not understanding enough how you can mesh those two to answer that question. And I don't believe it's the fundamental question. The fundamental question is there a God who did it or not?
Well, it's been great having this discussion with you. You're getting up in years. What do you hope to accomplish in the years that you have left with regard to what we've been talking about?
Yeah. Well, one of the blessings I've had in recent years since I retired as president is spending more time trying to get caught up on the understanding of the sciences because there's so much material you can't keep up with it. But I've tried to narrow it down to things I want to talk about and to do a lot of reading and thinking and meditating and understanding of complex things that I believe are more powerful than ever testimonials that there is a God. And I'm convinced in my own mind that that's God's plan for me at this stage in life, is to use my teaching ability and my understanding of the sciences to the degree that I have it, to help people who are struggling, especially young people, on this topic. So I really spent the most of my time in recent years trying to advance my knowledge and my understanding and ability to explain to a stronger level, as long as my mind keeps working. And I want it to stay active as long as possible. And to use that to help folks get a better grasp of this topic. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about it even today and say, I've been down this road, and I love to talk to young people about this and help them think through the things they're struggling with and give them the opportunity to open up. Because that's one thing when I was coming through this myself, I didn't have a lot of. I was not as open as I should have been with some people. And so I didn't have the support system that I would like to have had. And so that was a bigger struggle. And I think there's others who do the same and kind of internalize it, and in the process lose their faith in God because they haven't really dealt with it like they should.
Yeah. Well, it's very heartening to me to see a man who's in his retirement years, getting up in years, still wanting to be active, and God has blessed you with a good mind in your old age. And I pray that God continues to bless you as you seek to help us all understand things that are very complex.
Yes, and it's a blessing. And one of the things I hope this medium that we're engaged in right now, which I'm not very familiar with, will allow that to be even more widespread, and will allow people to think through things. Because with this medium, you can look at it over and over again.
Right.
And so there are ways you can explain things more fully
Yes.
in this kind of a medium than you can in others.
And that's our hope.
So for me, this is a new field. It's kind of exciting too, because there's ways to make your impact greater and more widespread.
And you're a good communicator. You're a good teacher.
Well, I hope so. I think I've been given a gift in that area,
Yeah.
and I want to use it to God's glory. So the privilege of getting to do this is one aspect of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Been a pleasure.
Good stuff, right? Well, hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out one of these other videos on our channel. We release new content every week, so keep an eye out for more solid spiritual content. That's all for now. Grace and peace.